Welcome to Anything But Ordinary with Spooky and Raven. Tonight's topic is Haunted Forest. It is a listener request. I am your host, Spooky. Here is your other most awesome host, Raven.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing better.
Me too. That is... Oh, man. It was just an awful week.
I know, that flu is something, isn't it?
I was almost...
Not to mention, y'all got bad weather up there.
Yeah, we have, I think, probably like 14 inches or more of snow right now. It's awful out there. Anybody who has this, are in the snow, in this weather right now, please be safe. Try to stay inside. And if you have animals, please bring them in. If you're cold, they're cold, you know?
They're telling me Spooky sounds low.
You sound low?
Yeah.
Let me check. Alright, guys, let me check the levels here. Sorry. I don't know, I have it up high. Oh, the levels are up, set to high here. Let me check. Is everybody having problems hearing Spooky, or is it just one person? Spooky, you have to talk so they can hear you.
Well, Diane says she sounds fine.
Yeah, you have to talk so people can tell if they can hear you or not. So,
okay, this was a viewer's request.
if you guys have any more problems, just let us know. Sorry.
Yeah. Really, just kind of let the mods know or
Yep, we'll try to
type
fix
it in
it.
chat. Like I said, tonight's topic was a viewer's request, and we would like to thank you guys for sending us your suggestions. We do try to get to them as soon as we can, and we do look at them, and we do talk about them and research them, and we may not get them on right away, but we get to them just as soon as we can. Now, both Raven and I have been sick, and we apologize for pushing the show back a week, but we do appreciate you guys sharing us with others and for sending us show topics. Now, Haunted Forest, besides just how amazing nature is and walking among the natural beauty of it all, the unknown of it and what lies within it could cause anyone's mind to wander.
Right. Just check your microphone levels, Spooky. Maybe just turn it up like 1 or 2 notches, okay? Go to probably like, I don't know. Alright, cool. You know, like she said, we were sick and stuff, but, you know, for tonight or, you know, just, I don't even know. Hold on, the things are hanging up. Sorry, guys. I don't know why. Sometimes programs hang up. Welcome to YouTube. It's fun.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you were just talking about forests and people, you know, just having weird experiences and stuff. But, you know, when you're walking through the forest, not just at nighttime, but also, like, during daytime, if you think about it, can really kind of mess you up. Because you have the darker corners of the forest, woodlands or swamps, they kind of have, like, the shadowy areas, and it can kind of, with the lights and stuff, and it can kind of play tricks with a person's mind. And you hear all these different sounds when you're in the woods, and if you don't really know what you're hearing, if it's an animal or something more, you know, that could totally make one person become disoriented when they're in the woods or freak them out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I could totally see how easy it would be for someone to become panicked. But it's even messed up when one actually kind of encounters something out of the normal. I mean, some people actually do see full body apparitions appearing right in front of them, to people even talking about seeing unknown cryptid creatures standing only a few feet away from them. Now, those stories, that would really creep a person out.
Yeah, really. That'd freak me out. We tried our best to find some different locations that were reported to have had strange paranormal occurrences. And we really wanted to find some that were not talked about.
Did you crank up your levels? Because they're telling you it's like really unbalanced. What are you at for your microphone level?
I'm at 100.
You're already at 100?
Yes.
Then you're going to be way too loud. You have to go down to at least 80. Because you're going to have to try to have it balanced out. Do you have the microphone close to you?
Yeah, have it right up to me.
Have it set to like 80.
Okay.
Hopefully that helps out with everybody. I don't know why Spooky's so low.
I have no idea.
Hopefully
Ricky.
it'll be okay. You guys just have to let us know. We changed some of the sounding, so hopefully it'll get a little bit better. You'll just have to let us know as we go. So go ahead, Spooky. We'll just see how it goes.
Well, like I said, we tried our best to find locations that were not, always talked about. We wanted to find some that were not as well known. But with all of our digging, we only kept coming up with the same stories being told by several websites. There I go again. But we did manage to find a few that were not mentioned as often.
Right. We did try our, I don't know. Do you think that, I don't know, do you think nature has its own spirits, Spooky?
Yes, I most certainly do. I think that that nature is so alive. I know that sounds corny, but it's when you get into a forest or something, there's just I think that there are spirits everywhere in there. And I'm not talking about, mainly the paranormal kind. I just think that everything has a spirit to it.
Yeah, well, everything has kind of like energy and stuff,
Right.
but I know that...
That's what I was trying to say. All that energy in there
Mm-hmm.
and everything, I think that the place just soaks it up.
Well, not just that, but I think everything has its own stuff to it. When you're in the forest alone, I don't know how many people have been to the woods or been in nature, and you just stand out there and you just close your eyes and you just listen and you could just feel and hear everything. It on its own, right. It's an amazing thing. But I don't know, do you think that a place can only be haunted or have residual hauntings because people have lived there or occupied and or died in the area for a period of time? Or do you think it can happen anywhere, irregardless of somebody being there?
Well, I don't know about being haunted or having residual hauntings. I don't think that every place is. Even when, they have been, even when people have been there or a lot of people have died or even something tragic has happened, I don't think that every place soaks up the energy. And I don't think that all places like that are haunted or do have residual hauntings. Some people may disagree with me,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't think that every place becomes haunted because of those circumstances.
Right. Now that I think our levels are fixed, why don't you start off first, Spooky? And like we said, we're going to kind of cover some of the well-known ones per request, and then some that we found on our own that were not talked about as widely on the net. So why don't you go ahead and go first, Spooky, and hopefully now all the levels are good and even for everybody to hear.
Well, this first one I have was specifically requested, and it's the Aokigahara Forest. It's this forest is not very big. It is only 14 square miles, and it is located at the northwest base of Mount Fuji in Japan, and it's also known as the Suicide Forest. This forest is so dense that it shuts out all sounds except the natural sounds in the forest itself. Now, the denseness is also so great that even the sun cannot penetrate it except in very few places. The forest contains a number of caverns, such as the Ice Cavern and the Wind Cavern, and which are like tourist magnets. A lot of tourists like to go in for these. Now, all the caverns are on rocky trails and are a little difficult to get to, but these caverns are very popular, like I said, with tourists. Now, many who wander off the official trails to get to the caverns end up getting lost.
Mm-hmm.
The floor of the forest is made up mostly of volcanic rock, and it is very fertile. In fact, the trees that grow there, they grow in such a manner that they appear to be walking. Because a lot of them are actually sitting on these volcanic rocks, and their roots, kind of go down and into the soil.
Yeah.
And it gives the impression the tree's walking. The vegetation is so thick that it's like walking on a carpet. So when one wanders off the official trail, it is very easy to lose your bearings and sense of direction, because it doesn't matter what direction you look, the scenery is all the same. I've never been in a forest like that before. But because of this, also, the hikers that wander away from the trails, they've started using these plastic tapes to mark their paths to avoid getting lost. So the first mile into the forest is littered with tape, but a bit further in, it is beautiful landscape with little or no litter. Now, the forest is often referred to as Jakai, which translates to Sea of Trees.
Mm-hmm.
And this is because it has a very high density of trees, duh. There is very little wildlife in this forest, so it is very quiet, and this makes it a popular destination with the locals. Now, unfortunately, all the quiet and the beauty of this forest it hides a very dark side. It is the #1 place in Japan to commit suicide.
I have some theories on that, but I'll let you kind of talk a little bit more, and then, because I just kind of have a feeling that it has to do with what the environment is and the minerals and certain things that are in the area, that might be affecting people's energy in their mind, But
Right. And not only that, it is also the #2 place in the world to commit suicide. The #1 being the Golden Gate Bridge over the San Francisco Bay in California.
Now, in no way are we suggesting subconsciously for anybody who's thinking of going to go commit suicide to go to either of these places.
I do not recommend that at all.
We do not recommend anybody ending your life either. So
That's right, absolutely. There have been so many suicides there that the police quit publishing records for fear that it would affect the tourist trade. So the exact number of suicides, in a year is unknown, but the last official record published in 2003, I think it was, showed that 105 bodies were found. That's a lot of bodies.
I know, but that would explain why, if you think about it, all the energy and stuff there,
Right, it's got to be full of energy. Every year the police do a sweep of the forest. I started to say florist. Of the forest for bodies, but because of the density of the forest, not all the bodies are recovered, so every once in a while some unlucky hiker will stumble upon one. And the most common methods of suicide are hanging and drug overdose, but it is believed, though, that a very small percentage of the deaths are starvation and dehydration, and these are mainly what happened to the people who go deeper into the forest and get lost and just cannot find their way out. But as I said before, the landscape in all directions looks identical, and there are those that do wander off the official trails. They do become confused, and they just lose their way.
Right. It's very easy to lose your way when you're in the woods, or even just like a small wooded park area.
Right.
You can get disoriented. It's not that hard, especially depending on the season.
Right, exactly. And because of the rich deposits of magnetic iron in the volcanic soil, compasses in this forest are literally useless.
See what you just said about the magnetic iron and the volcano soil and the certain things that are in that environment? It makes me wonder if that may play a role on affecting animals and or people who are in the area for this to have such a high rate of people wanting to kill themselves and stuff. I wonder if it's affecting people's energies or throwing them off and making not just the normal things in life that can depress somebody, but I wonder if there's certain things on this planet that could affect somebody who might be more predisposed to being...
I think it can.
Yeah,
I really do.
It just makes me wonder.
And also, like I said before, there's very little wildlife in this forest. So I tried to dig deeper to find out exactly what kind of wildlife is in there. And, I couldn't find out.
Nothing.
I couldn't find anything,
Well,
of
probably
the wildlife.
bugs.
And also, because of, like I said, the vastness of the forest and the density, anyone who does wander off the trails and the paths are very unlikely to encounter anyone
That's just
once
so
they
weird.
are
There's
in this sea of trees.
But how could there be no animals? Not even birds or anything? People literally say there's absolutely no.
I think it has to do with that magnetic iron in the soil. I think that.
So if animals are repelled from this, obviously it's affecting humans.
I think it does. I think it affects the animals. I think it does affect the humans.
That might be why.
Bats, for example, bats fly by sonar. They put, like a sonar-like deal. This would probably absolutely disturb that.
Well, right, but it's got to be playing havoc on people who live in and around the area then.
Yeah.
And that would make sense why so many people have so many issues while they're in the forest, even when they don't go to.
Well, and they
kill
also
themselves.
believe that some of these suicides are like businessmen who have had a bad day or failed to fulfill a quota, or the stock market went bad or something, and they go
Well, yeah,
off
there's some people who the stresses
'cause-
of life weigh down to them too much, and that's horrible. But there's other people who just go in here too, and I wonder from camping or just hiking and whatever.
And all these suicides have prompted the police to post signs throughout the forest, both in Japanese and English, encouraging people to seek help before deciding to end their lives.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
This is something that they're trying to avoid, but, they have to do this sweep every year to clean up the bodies and collect them.
But, we'll go on. And then I'm formulating a thought, 'cause I'm going to ask you a question in a little bit, but go ahead and
Okay.
go on with what you're saying.
Well, those who do commit suicide, though, they don't think about the impact in different ways that their decision has on others. Like their family, their friends, and also people that they don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the forest workers, during the sweep, they have to carry the corpses out of the forest to the local station, and where they place them in a special room used specifically to house these suicide victims. I don't like to think of them as victims, but these suicide victims. And then these forest workers play a game called Yankin Pon, which translates into rock, paper, scissors. And they do this to determine who will sleep in the room with the corpses. Now, they do this because it is believed that it is very bad luck to leave the corpses alone, because the Yuri, which is a mad or evil ghost, or the ghost of this person that commits suicide, is said to scream all night, and the body will move on its own if it's left alone.
That's crazy.
That is crazy, especially I'm not going to sleep in a room with 105 corpses. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. I don't care. They can get up and walk all night. I don't care.
But but I don't know. That would freak me out, literally, if that really did occur, But obviously, it makes me wonder who started that. Obviously, it must have occurred at some point for this tradition to happen.
This is a culture that believes in this sort of thing, and actually they believe that suicide is an honorable thing in some cases. Now, this forest also has the distinction of being called the most haunted place in Japan.
Well, yeah, I could see why, though.
Well, Japanese spiritualists believe that the energy of all these suicides committed in the forest have permeated or been absorbed into the trees, thus generating paranormal activity.
Mm-hmm.
And this activity has also caused many to either take their own life or to draw them so deep into the forest they become lost and never find their way out. So they die from starvation, dehydration, or they just succumb to the elements. Now, those that have survived have said that once you step off that trail or path, the air becomes heavy with a sense of foreboding. Others have even been driven mad. They have found people coming out of this forest that were just insane. And besides the heavy air, there have been voices heard, apparitions seen, this intense feeling of doom, strange noises, and this very strong sense of being watched. Now, while the suicides do go back to the 1950s, the hauntings actually go back for centuries. And one possible reason for this could be the practice of ubasute. Now, what this is the practice of carrying or leading one or both elderly and infirmed parents to a desolated place and leaving them to die. And they were left with nothing but the clothes on their backs. No food, no water, nothing, just the clothes on their backs. And sometimes the parent would go off by themselves. Now, this was done so the elderly or the infirmed parent would not be a burden to their children, especially during hard times. And it was practiced right up to the late 1800s. Now, Japan was not the only country or culture to practice this.
Mm-hmm.
And while it did happen, it was not as common in Japan as it was in other countries or cultures. But the practice does have a very strong foothold in Japanese folklore and legend. And it is also the basis of many of their poems and stories. In one Buddhist story, a son was carrying his mother up a mountain on his back, and on the way, she would pull at the limbs and the twigs and the shrubs and break them off, and then she'd scatter them all around so her son would be able to find his way back. Now, and it was also considered a noble and dignified thing for an elderly parent to wander off on their own. So, like I said, so they wouldn't be a burden to their children, and they were honored for their unselfish act.
That just seems weird, but so basically, it's almost like they added to the abnormal, I can't even talk, with the weirdness that's already going on with the woods because of the lava and the what else did you say? The iron, whatever else,
magnetic
iron and stuff, everything going on. But then way back in the day, they had already been using this woods and leaving the elderly there to die and stuff.
Right. And a lot of cultures did do that, and I'm sure that some may even practice it now. But I don't know that for sure. But
that would,
because of this practice, though, of the parents going off by themselves, even to this day, Japan has a higher than average suicide rate among its elderly.
Well, I know that there's murders that take place in these woods too, but the fact that there's so many lives that, and who knows, like, if these people who are going in there and committing suicide, if they have negative attachments with them, if there's darkness that are feeding onto them that are trying to convince them into offing themselves and stuff, is there something in this area that draws people who kind of have a weakness and preys on them over time to come here? There's so many possibilities that I kind of think about when it comes to this, but I mean, I wouldn't mind going to visit this place, you know what I mean? Not really. I don't really want to go and see the dead bodies or whatever, but I don't know, I have a feeling that there's just something to this area, not just because of all the people who committed suicide there, and I could definitely see that's why people go there. You go camping there, you walk on the trail, you're definitely going to see apparitions, be it residual or full on, I don't know. This place to me would trip me out for sure in many ways, but I definitely think it's haunted.
I would like to go there too, not to see the bodies, not to see if I can find a body or anything.
No.
But I would just like to go there
and investigate it.
Investigate it. I would like to just look around and just listen. I mean, as silly as this sounds, if you're in the middle of the woods and if you just be quiet and just listen, the woods do talk to you.
Well, no, but this place is extremely haunted. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many people have had experiences from, but I could see why, with the area equipment being messed up and everything else just because of the lava and the magnetic and everything else that's going on. But as far as the paranormal too, I don't.
Well, there have been some people have reported that when they get in there, their watches stop.
Yeah, there's just a lot to this, and I would want to do it go with a wide variety of different scientists and a bunch of paranormal people who are really into this and have different techniques and everything else they're doing it, and then go in with just some random people who don't have any of that or have studied any of it, just a wide variety of people. And somebody, Rob Roberto suggested, get a group of people in there and document how everything affects all these different people.
Right.
But would be good is if everybody came together for a month or two, so you got to know everybody's, if they had any mental problems or health problems, you study everything beforehand, then you go in and then you spend a month there and see what could occur. This would definitely be a place to go do it if people had the means or the ways,
Right. So is the Aokigahara forest haunted? Can the trees absorb the energy from those that commit suicide or die natural deaths in there? I personally believe they can, and I also personally believe that this is the cause of the haunting.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you care if I go on to mine?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, let me just click the picture over here. Hopefully sound's still good for people. I don't know what happened, but sometimes things go a fluke. I got storms going on too and everything else, so I don't really know. But I'm hoping everything's balanced out now for everybody. And we apologize for that. But one of the ones that I found that was one of the top ones that was talked a lot about was the Epping Forest. And that's located between the northeast London and Essex. And it was first kind of around in the 17th century. And it was first formally used as the Royal Forest in the 12th century by Henry II. And it has, I think over 6,000 acres of trees, rivers, and I think 100 lakes and ponds. So it's a pretty good, well one. But if anybody doesn't know what a Royal Forest is, it's basically land that only the royal can hunt on.
Right.
And that's it. But when I was reading over the net, many claim that this Epping Forest seems to have a plethora of paranormal activity. And it's also kind of known for its criminal activity as well that's taken place there over the years, because they used to have tons of hideouts, and they also used it for a dumping ground for their victims who they murdered. So obviously that's going to play a little role.
Well, that would be the forest to do it. If you're going to rob somebody, go to the Royal Forest.
Well, it's not a Royal Forest anymore. In the 12th century it was, but after that then, But there seems to be a certain areas within this forest that I was reading that has a cluster of reports of, strange encounters with the unknown. And there's this place, I think it's in Loggington Camp. It's on Iron Age Hill Fort in Eppington Forest, and that dates back as early as the 500 BC. And what I was reading is many people had these different theories, kind of how it came to be or what it was used for, but it was basically abandoned in by 1872 and left for nature to kind of reclaim. But it was said sometime between the 18th and the 19th century, this hermit type of dude moved in, and it's basically become known as Kate's Cellar. And this person seems to continually haunt that same area, because people say when they go to this section, they hear disembodied voices, they hear groaning, they also hear drumming while they're in this camped area. Which would be weird, because it's not just one drumming, but it's multiple drummings going together as though it was some type of seance or, Native American type of stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But people have said that they've seen 3 different female apparitions walking along the road near that area. And there's paranormal groups that claim, who when they go out there a lot, they claim that they've seen balls of light, the ones that emit their own energy, and they seem to have their own path and direction.
Right.
There's mists that form up into images. When people are out there, they say that when they're walking around, they'll hear like disembodied footsteps following them, and if they stop, it stops. When they walk, it keeps up with their pace, but they don't see anything, and that's in the woods nearby. Also along the Epping New Road near the Wake Arms roundabout, Black Spot, many say that they have encountered different apparitions there. They've seen like headless bikers, which would freak me out.
Yeah, really.
Headless horsemen, which goes way back in the day. And then they also have seen these phantom horse-drawn coaches go by. And there's also, which seems to always be everywhere, a little girl. A little girl seems to haunt everything. But
Just about.
many people who drive up and down this path, they say that they've had a ghost spirit that literally runs out right in front of their car. And then right before the car hits it, it disappears. It's almost like they're trying to get these people to wreck. Because you imagine you're going like 40, 50, 60 miles per hour, and you see a human body. You think it's a person, but it's an apparition. And they come bolting right out in front of your car. And either you slam on your brakes or you swerve, and right before they hit this person, the apparition just vanishes right then and there. And it happens a lot on this road, I guess.
Oh my goodness.
There's a lot of people who tell about the story of this spirit. His name was Dick Turnbin. Now, he was like this highwayman during the 1700s, and he used to use a cave in the high beach area of the forest as his hideout. And what he would do is he would basically scout the road for any victims, and then he'd rob them at gunpoint. And eventually a bounty was placed on his head, and he left town and basically moved into the woods to evade authorities, and he just stayed there for like a long time. But they did capture him, and then they hung him. And people claim that the spirit of him, he stalks this forest wearing like a tricorn hat, a cape, and he's riding like this dark horse, and it's always near the high beach area, and he's constantly harassing people who go through the area. So I'm not sure if he's ever physically tried to attack somebody, but he's definitely been intimidating and threatening at times when people have encountered supposedly
I don't
this
know what
man's
I would
spirit.
do if I would see that. I mean, I'm still thinking about the ghost that runs out in front of cars. But to be out there and to see somebody running down the beach.
That's not a beach. It's the area of the woods. That's what it's called, high beach area.
Okay.
It's just a section of the forest. But they have this guy who's got a cape and a tricorn hat, and he's on a horse, and people have encountered him, and he seems to be somewhat still intimidating, since he used to rob people all the time who were traveling up and down the area back in the 1700s, robbing them and killing them, Also in the Hangman's Hill, located near the high beach near Avery Lane, they talk about people claiming that their cars would turn off. Well, no, wait, let me look down. They go in this one section. They park their car, they turn it off, and they put it in neutral. And this is one of those spots, again, where your car rolls uphill.
Oh, my.
So while the car's rolling uphill, they'll be at the top, and they'll roll balls going down. So they'll throw balls going down, and your car's rolling up. But I think that has to do with I think the hill isn't really a hill type of thing. You know what I mean? But
that sounds more like vortex?
Vortex type of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But they also say, I think it's more of like the optical illusion type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you think you're on a hill, but it's really not a hill. There's a lot of spots like that. And I think it's basically known for its gravity or magnetic. They call it like the magnetic hill or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's actually, I think, more of a downward slope. It just appears like it's upwards. And there's a lot of areas like that all over the place. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I think the reason why it's called Hangman's Hill, from what I was reading, is they claim it because there's like this ancient tree in this area where they say like 3 people lost their lives. They were hung there and they were innocent people. And I guess this apparition of this man is often seen in this wooded area as well. People are hearing like disembodied screams and
weren't these like these 3 people though that were hung? Weren't they like innocent?
yeah, I just said that. There were like 3 people who were...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I'm having problems with my headset here.
Maybe that's why we're having problems with the mic too. But
Yeah.
basically, you know, they're hearing screams and they're seeing different apparitions throughout all different parts of these woods. People claim that their cars are being pushed uphill because the ancient tree's hangman's noose is the thing that's literally pulling their car up. But I kind of don't believe in that part.
I don't believe that one either. I think I agree with you. I think it's more of an optical illusion than anything.
Right. But, I mean, is this haunted or is it just people's imagination? I don't know. But there's a lot of people on the net who've been sharing their stories about this forest and talking about their paranormal encounters. They're also sharing their EVPs that they're getting of these disembodied voices and what have you. There is a couple of photos on there which we weren't allowed to use because we don't have permission. But they're out there where people are showing where they have captured mist forms as well as these glowing balls of light. But I think that there are certain areas that I think people are encountering maybe residual. But I think they are seeing these apparitions in certain spots. I don't really believe so much about that car being pulled or manipulated by spirits. I think that's just an optical illusion where the hill is actually a downward slope at a slight angle where people just think it's actually going up, but it's not. But as far as the other areas that I was reading about and people who are sharing their photos and stuff, I definitely think that there's something going on there, you know.
Oh, yeah. I think there is too. I don't believe, like I said before, I think the thing on the hill is just an optical illusion thing. That part I really don't believe. But I think that some of this at least is paranormal activity, especially around the tree where the 3 innocent people were hung. I think that possibly is paranormal. I think that this forest has soaked up a lot of the energy of the things that have happened in there and stuff. Yeah, I think that
I think
I think a lot of it is paranormal activity. I think some of it may be, what's the word I want? Embellished.
Yeah. But there's definitely people who are sharing their EVPs and they are sharing
Right.
some of their photos. And
So they are getting something from this place.
yeah, in different sections. And, you know, the fact that there's multiple people sharing their encounters of this person, this apparition running out in front of their car and making them almost crash every single time, you know.
Right.
So there's a
That
lot.
that would freak me out. That was freak when you were telling that. You know, I mean, that first thing that hit my mind was that's freaky.
It sucks.
I would have to stop to make sure I didn't hit something.
Make sure you have insurance, but that's definitely awful. I think as far as Epping Forest go, if you guys type that up, just type in Epping Forest EVPs or orb photos. Hopefully they'll pop up right away for you guys and you'll be able to see them. Like I said, we only share photos that we can get permission to use. We don't like to go against other people's copyright and stuff,
Right.
and we try to be respectful of everybody. But there's definitely a lot of different photos out there for you guys to check out, and I'll post the links in our YouTube thing. But why don't you go ahead and say the next one, Spooky?
Robinson Woods. It's at East River Road at Lawrence Avenue in Norridge, Norridge, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Alexander Robinson, that was the English name given to a half-breed Native American whose real name is Chi-Chi Pinquay. And that name means blinking eyes, and it was given to him because of a facial tic that plagued him for life. Now, he was the son of an Ottawa woman and a Scottish trader. He was also chief of the Potawatomi, the Chippewa, and the Ottawa Nation of Indians, which was also known as the Three Fires. Now, during the Fort Dearborn massacre, Alexander, along with others, helped several white settlers, helped save several white settlers and get them to safety. Now I'm becoming tongue-tied.
Yeah.
In return, Robinson, along with the others, were given 2 tracts of land along the Des Plaines River. And because of his consistent friendly services between the settlers, the government, and the Indians, he was given a stipend of $200 a year. And over his lifetime, it grew to be $500 a year for life. And back then, that was a lot of money. On August 24th in 1816 at Edwardsville, Illinois, which, by the way, is only 30 minutes from where I live, a treaty was signed with the nations giving the United States a strip of land along Lake Michigan to the Fox River, to the Kankakee River, to the Illinois River, for the primary purpose to provide a corridor where a canal could be built to provide navigation from Lake Michigan to the Illinois rivers. Now, Robinson was a great chief and a great mediator between the settlers and the government and the Indians, and he lived on the land until with his family until his death on April 22nd in 1872.
So they think this guy's like haunting the place or something?
Yeah. This man lived to the ripe old age of 110 years old. Now, there is so much that I could really say about this man, but that would take up most of the show, so I'm kind of paraphrasing his life because of the time. But he is buried on the property now, and the property is now known as Robinson Woods, along with members of his family, and there is a huge boulder marking the graves. Now, the Robinsons occupied the property until May 26, 1955, and on that day their house caught fire and burned to the ground. Now, the Forest Preserve District bought the property but made provisions for the Robinsons and their descendants to occupy a house and an acre of land rent-free for life. Anyway, about 5 months later, on October 16th, the bodies of John Schuessler, who was 13, Anton Schuessler, who was 11, and Robert Peterson, who was 14, were found in a ditch which bordered the parking lot to the Robinson Woods, about 100 feet from the Des Plaines River.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of these children had been strangled, and one had been beaten in the head with either the butt of a gun or a tire iron, and all 3 were completely naked.
What?
Now, this case went unsolved for 40 years when finally, in August of 1994, and I remember this, a Kenneth Hansen, who was 61, was arrested and charged with the murders.
Dang.
Now, Hansen was 22 at the time and lived on the same street as the boys.
That guy's
And
jacked
he was sentenced to 300 years and died in prison. So the reason I gave you all this history was because now these woods are not are not in an isolated area. They are very close to O'Hare Airport and a very busy highway.
Well, there's also a little park area connected with the woods where
Right.
I could get the photo off of Google. Everywhere else I couldn't really get a photo with not impeding on someone's
Right.
copyrighted issues, but
Exactly. Anyway, soon after the bodies were discovered, paranormal activity in the woods began to be reported at all hours of the day and night by a variety of people.
wow.
And these were people ranging from passing motorists
Mm-hmm.
to police officers on patrol, as well as neighbors and residents who live directly across the road. And even by joggers passing by the area and visitors to the gravesite itself. Now, strange lights have been seen on the old trail that leads to the Des Plaines River, but the Robinson family would get water from the river for drinking, bathing, and cooking, and sometimes at night while carrying a torch. So some people believe that this is...
They're
kind of
seeing them a residual.
A residual, exactly.
Right, I gotcha. So they're doing so these people think that this is the family just doing their imprint that may have been left on the land of this
Right.
family doing what they used to do when they were alive.
Because this was a big family through the years, and there were a lot of them that lived on this property until that house burnt down. There was even been reports of strange noises coming from the woods that have been described as sounding like an axe hitting a tree. And also, the Robinson family would chop wood and sell it and trade it for foodstuff, blankets, and even whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
There are reports of the smell of lilacs and violets coming from the area of the boulder, even in the winter when no flowers are in bloom. And it's also said that even when the wind is blowing, the smell remains right there.
So it's probably like maybe the perfume that she may have wore when she was alive or something.
Yeah, I read somewhere where she was partial. His wife was really partial to lilac perfume. Now, there's also been reports of apparitions of young boys and the sounds of multiple young boys heard playing. So the question is, does Alexander Robinson and his family still roam these woods that they once called home, or do the 3 murdered boys haunt these woods? Or maybe it's all of the above. And there are claims that the woods are still haunted today. And it doesn't matter what time of day or night.
There's some activity constantly occurring at some point.
It's almost like it's constantly going on.
That would be weird in a sense, you know what I mean? To see that.
It's part of a national park, or a park up there now, and and Robinson's body and his family are buried there. The bodies are there, and there's this huge boulder with their names and everything. So it is. So people do hike in up to this grave. And like I said, they're reporting paranormal activity no matter what time of day or what time of night. There is just something constantly going on there.
Wow. Well, then that's a place people should go check out. What's the name of this place again?
It's called Robinson Woods, and it's located at East River Road and Lawrence Avenue in Norridge, Illinois, which is up in northern Illinois.
So this is actually be a good place for anybody who's into investigating the paranormal stuff, where you don't have to pay, you just go in, you can hang out because it's right there in the open.
Yeah,
and it's a park, so if it doesn't matter what time, day or night, so you could possibly get evidence or whatever.
I would like to go up there and just walk through the place. I mean, there's nothing there but a hiking trail, really. There are a few picnic tables, for people to stop and rest, but basically this is a hiking trail.
Well, there's that one park, too, that I found the one picture for, but this is definitely a place where people could go and not be bothered or have to pay, because, a lot of people want to do these things, but who has the money to go and pay all this place to investigate some old house, so
right.
That's definitely a place that somebody could go check out. But I find it interesting that people have had experiences both during the day and at night, so there's really no time set for any of this residual hauntings or whatever. But
right.
The Cannock Chase Woods is this large area of forest in England. Now, according to some sites, this area seems to have been or is a hotspot for a plethora of strange things since the 19th century. Now, I guess it started back when a Celtic tribe lived there in the area, but people have claimed to have encountered a wide variety of things. They are experiencing these devilish black dogs with glowing eyes. There's cryptid creatures that they claim. There's a werewolf beast roaming around, and people have encountered that. They're talking about these cryptid creatures of Bigfoots being seen. There's been over 180 reports of these big, large cats roaming the area, which I didn't know England had big cats.
I saw a documentary
here we go.
On that.
On the big cats roaming?
On the big cats. I didn't know that England had Bigfoot, but I saw a documentary on these huge black cats being seen by people in a certain area of the country.
Well, they had over 180 reported cases, and that was just in the past 6 years.
Yeah.
There's also people talking about them having several reports of UFOs being seen in the area of these woods and the fields, and they ranging in different types of unidentified crafts, from the large black triangle type of crafts to cigar type of shaped crafts to whatever kind of other crafts. But there's a multitude. I think somebody actually has a video of it too, but Oh yeah, I forgot. They also mention on some of the sites that they allude that there's a pig man, which is a cryptid creature that has like this curly tail. Now this pig man, I guess, was first seen in the 40s when there were like 2 military training camps in the area, and there was also like this German prison of war hospital there at the time too. Now over the years, there's been more and more sightings that have been reported since the 40s of this pigman, so I'm not really sure what that would be.
I had never heard of that one before.
I don't know. That could be some weird experiment gone wrong. I have no idea. But obviously people are claiming to see some type of pigman. But according to some of the sites I was reading, there's like this bipedal wolf creature that's been seen by several different people over the years in and around the German War Cemetery. Now, that's just off the camp road. Now, many claim to have seen this creature walking on its hind legs, and it runs off into nearby trees. And this one man I read, he was like a local postman. He claimed while riding his motorbike, he spotted what he thought was just like this large dog kind of roaming around the German War Cemetery. And he said as he drove closer, this creature stood up on its 2 legs and ran off for the foliage. That would freak me out. You know, this postman's is doing his business. He said that's not the first time. He's seen it several different times. If I was him, I'd probably change my route.
I think I would too. I would avoid that area completely.
Bring some.
You know, let those people go to the post office and get their mail.
Bring some doggy treats or silver bullets. But there's another guy. He claimed that he thought he saw a large wolf creeping around the edge of the forest near the German War Cemetery, and he left the cemetery and he quickly got back into his car. And he said when he slammed the door, that's when this large wolf creature stood up on its 2 legs, looked at him, and then ran off for the woods. So why is this thing kind of in this one section? Seems kind of weird, you know, just hanging out in the cemetery. You know what I mean? Now,
well, apparently it's not around. Apparently it's shy of human contact or something coming close to it. If it just got up and ran off into the woods,
well, like I said, if I was those guys...
why take any chances?
Well, right. That's why I said if I was those guys, I would be packing some doggy treats, maybe some steak, and be like, here you go. There's also reports of UFO sightings. Now, they've been taught, as far as I was reading, these UFO sightings have been talked about as far back as the 60s. You know, like I was saying, there's strange crafts going from, like, the Black Triangle in 88. And then there was actually a UFO crash, and it's in Breckenridge, and this UFO crashed in 1964, and this area is kind of considered as the British. Go ahead.
Wasn't that the one that the military used to keep this thing called a blue book?
Yeah,
with
we
all
talked
the military
about
sightings in it, and wasn't that the one in 1964? Where all of these military people, both British and Americans, went off into the woods to investigate this thing because people saw all kinds of bright lights and everything in there. Yeah. And no one was allowed in.
Yep. Yeah, I think because we also do shows on UFOs. We do a wide variety of stuff. So, and I know we're going to be doing an alien UFO show next month, you know, but yeah. There are photos and some other things out there, but, like, again, we're not allowed to use certain things because we didn't get the permission for it, and we just don't want to, you know, tread on people's toes. But there are, I guess, some photos and stuff out there with this Breckenridge UFO crash that happened in 1964, and it's actually kind of a neat thing to read about or whatever, but they kind of consider that the British Roswell, you know. Right. But there is a video that... There's these people who had like a flat or an apartment, and they were hanging out up on the roof, you know, just, I don't know what they were doing, you know, just chilling up there, probably having a drink, you know what I mean? And they saw one of those black triangle crafts. They're like, you know, well larger than a football field. And it was hovering over the forest near the field area. So they were filming this, or wait, was it a cigar shape? I think it was a cigar shape. But if you guys type in the Cannock Woods and then type in UFO for YouTube, I think you'll guys be able to find these people who just, I don't remember, I think it was just a few years back of them filming like this cigar-shaped UFO there. So this place is definitely interesting, but it kind of creeps me out in a sense of, like, a lot of people believe these cryptid creatures. What they talk about there, this is their theories, their opinions and whatnot, what they're talking about is they think that there's some kind of underground tunneling that goes to caves and stuff that has to do with when the military was around too. And they think that these bipedal cryptid creatures from the werewolf or Bigfoot might be underground dwelling creatures, and then they come up at certain points when they're hunting or looking for food, like deer or what have you, you know?
Right.
That's their theories. You know, we're just sharing.
Aren't these werewolf type creatures, which is what I call them?
Mm-hmm.
These bipedal wolf creatures.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, England is loaded with all kinds of stories about these creatures.
What the heck? There is this one place, I think it's one of the ones we're going to talk about tonight too, where this area was the first reported werewolf attack. And I think we'll be talking about that one in the second half of our show, because we're going to take a little break here in a little bit. We're going to let, and then we'll finish on with the rest of the second half of the show. But yeah, I think them are one of the places I did write up tonight, where there is one place where it was the first reported known attack of a werewolf. I've never encountered a werewolf.
I know where you're talking about, but I can't think of where it is.
And I've never encountered a Bigfoot. But we did have somebody on our show, I think a year ago this month, who they actually have a really haunted area in Wisconsin. She does live near that Briars Road and stuff. And
the Bray Road, the Bray Road.
Right, well, they live near that, but we had that guest come on, Holly, and they do actually have a bipedal wolf that's been stalking and haunting their home for a long time. So if you guys are interested, you can go back and listen to that podcast that we have on or whatever with that. But hey,
right.
Why don't we just take a quick 3-minute break, and then we'll come back and finish the show. So for those of you guys who are listening, if you want to just get up, get a stretch, have a smoke, get a snack, or get some water, we'll be back in like 3 minutes, and then we're going to finish the second half of our show. And I just want to thanks for everybody for coming. Stick with us and share us with others, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Anything But Ordinary. I'm your host, Raven, and hopefully Spooky's back with us.
Yeah, I'm here.
Going to continue with the second half of our show, Haunted Forests. And just to let you guys know, the music we use on our shows is what YouTube allows us. That's free to use, because everything else is copyrighted and could shut our channel down, so sorry. If we could, we'd be playing a whole bunch of other music.
I know if it was up to me, we'd really be playing some good stuff.
Yeah, but thank you guys for sticking with us, and we're going to finish out the second hour of our show. And I think it's your turn, Spooky.
Okay, Old House Woods. It's on Old House Woods and Route 107 in Diggs, Virginia. Now, it was named such because, there used to be an old farmhouse that sat right in the center of the woods, but it burnt down one night.
My house, it's on fire.
Yeah. Well, actually, the house caught fire twice. The first time it put itself out, and the second time it burnt down to the foundation. Now, this is a 50-acre tract of pine woods on the east side of Diggs, Virginia, and it is said that the woods are so thick that at night it is totally dark and you cannot even see the sky or the stars through the trees.
Wow, that's a pretty thick forest.
That is a thick forest. The woods stretch out to the beach, and it is separated from Chesapeake Bay by the White Creek and the Cannock borders on the north, where there are several busy seaports that operated from the Revolutionary War era through the Civil War era.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The woods and beach are said to hide the buried treasure of pirates who used to visit the area.
Oh, so it's full of booty.
Yeah, and it's a hot spot for treasure seekers.
Thick bush and booty. Sorry.
Well,
You put it together that way, so.
Yeah, I
Can't help it.
I walked right into it.
Yeah, you let the door open for us to go that way.
One
Sorry.
story is that in 1651, King Charles II sent chests of treasure from England to Jamestown to be hidden in case he had to flee and go into exile after the Battle of Worcester. But upon reaching the area, half the treasure was stolen by robbers, and the crew buried the other half. And when they returned to their ship and set sail, a violent storm came up, and the ship capsized, and all were lost. Another story is that just after the Revolutionary War in 1781, a large Patriot cache of gold and silver was buried in the woods by a cemetery by British General Cornwallis. Mm-hmm. Now, it is likely he did pass through the area in flight from Greensboro to Wilmington, North Carolina to Yorktown, Virginia, but he surrendered a year later and he was freed in a prisoner exchange, but he never returned to the area. Well, the claims of paranormal activity in the woods and on the beach have been going on for 300 years.
Wow.
This is not something that is recent. This is something that's been going on for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but some of the reports, though, are so outlandish, it could be safe to say that they are just urban legends. But stories have been told for 300 years do deserve attention. Skeletons in knights' armor, swinging swords, and some unseen battle. And actually, no knights were ever in the area, so I would say that would be an urban legend. Soldiers in revolutionary uniforms are seen walking along the beach. Pirates with torches are seen digging in the woods. There's also a report of a gray glowing spirit with a skeleton face and dressed as a pirate coming out of the water and walking on the beach toward the road. Now, also a Spanish galleon that sails onto the beach and hovers there. And dark figures of men are seen leaving the ship. This ship has also been seen hovering above the trees. That part I just somehow can't buy.
That, what?
Yeah.
Big ass boat. Or, excuse me.
Yep, it sure is.
Flying above the trees. That'd be like,
Yeah.
what are you smoking? Or you're eating the wrong mushrooms, you know?
Really. Now, and there are reports of headless pirates walking and sometimes running along the beach. Now, some pirate captains, after burying their treasure,
That'd be like
they,
Baywatch gone wrong, you
I
know?
know,
Pirates
kill
running down the beach. Go ahead. You're
some
making me
pirate-
laugh tonight. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry too. Some pirate captains, after burying their treasure, they would kill the landing party and behead them to keep them from telling where the treasure was hidden, and also to prevent them from coming back and digging it up themselves. So this one's kind of believable. Lights being seen in the woods and the sounds of digging. There's been voices. This one I don't buy. Headless dogs running out of the woods and chasing people, and sometimes jumping onto their automobiles. I would say that comes from a nice little beer party. Or something a little bit stronger.
Moonshine?
Probably. There is a story of a green glowing ball of light that is so bright it lights up the entire area.
Wow.
But the word is that when that shows up, it's time to leave or something will attack you or your automobile. Now, whether or not all this activity is true is really not up for debate, because some of it is clearly urban legend. And from someone's imagination. But as I said before, there have been reports of paranormal activity in and around these woods for 300 years. And in my opinion, not all of the stories are just urban legends.
Right.
The woods are now private property with a strict no passing, but no trespassing. But and it's clearly posted. But the beach is a public beach and it's free.
I just think some of that is weird because I don't really believe a giant boat.
I don't believe that either. I believe that,
but I
is
do
just
believe that
a
people
little
are
bit
having
too much to drink.
Yeah, but I do believe that people are probably experiencing or seeing either residual or these possible apparitions.
It's entirely possible. I don't know how much of this particular story I believe, but there were Revolutionary soldiers in the area at that time. It was a place that pirates came to. And like I said, the part about the headless pirates, that's kind of believable because the captains did do that back then to keep the landing party there, per se, or so to speak, from telling where the treasure is hidden, you know, because I mean, you know, people when they're sitting in the tavern and getting drunk, they do tend to talk.
Right.
Or they'll say, hey, you know, we know where that's at. Why don't we go dig it up ourselves? You know, so that is kind of believable.
Yeah. I think we did a show on a land pirate one time or something. John Merle or somebody like that.
That was one of my relatives.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Do you care if I go on and tell one now?
No, go on.
Okay, let me just switch pictures here. I got two pictures for this one, but the Big Thicket National Preserve. Now, this is an area around southeast Texas, and it goes all the way to the southern western of Louisiana, and I don't even know how many acres there's. What?
It's about it's over 109,000 acres.
Yeah, I think there's a lot.
This is big.
Yeah, I think there was more to this at one point, but then, you know, when they had loggers and this and come in and then land disappeared, but I think there's like over 110,000 whatever acres of woodland
pretty
still.
Close to it, yeah.
But the Big Thicket has been said to have had activity with the paranormal to cryptids being seen in this area as well, which it's kind of huge for an animal to hide out in if they do exist. Now, one of the spots is called Ghost Road of Saratoga. Now, it's been said by many through the years that on this dirt road, people have seen and experienced a lot of paranormal activity, and they still do to this day. Now, they even gone to even name it the Saratoga Light and also the Bragg Road Ghost Lights, because what happens is when you're traveling on this road, this ball of light or balls of light will appear and then disappear sporadically during the night.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Now, I guess it's like it's like 8 miles long of like the sandy road, but some believe that it's a ghostly light that they're seeing. Now, there's a couple variations to this story of why people are seeing it. Some claim that the ghostly light is that of like a railroad worker who lost their life, and it's the lantern he uses to search for his decapitated head. And some even say it's like a long dead. Can you say that word for me, Spooky? For a reason I can't say it.
I'm not sure.
You don't know where I'm at? Anyway.
No.
Thanks for paying attention.
Everything just blanked and my screen went blank.
Anyway, they think it's one or two things. They, think it's a dead railroad worker who's looking for his head, or it's some old
conquistadors.
Yeah, that they buried their treasure there, and they're going back and looking for it and stuff. And then, of course, there's people who just say it's swamp gas. But the people who experience this phenomenon claim that this light seems to have like a flight pattern, and it moves back and forth, up and down in multiple different directions. It's not just gas light, where it just kind of hovers there and then dissipates. But they say that this light often changes colors too. It goes from like red to yellow, and the size of it varies many times. It might start off really small, go to like a softball size, even all the way up to like a basketball size, which is pretty large,
That's quite a light.
Yeah. Now, many claim that they've seen these lights glide through the trees as well, and some of them say that it's even gone over their car on purpose. And when it goes over their car, it actually disables the engine and knocks the car out for a while.
Wow. Which
I think is kind of fascinating. Now, I think I read the stories go back as far as back as I could find, go into the 40s, because there's a lot of people talking about having their own experiences on the internet about this area, and you could go read about it. I think there's also photos too. Actually, there are photos. People do have photos of a mist and...
I have heard of these lights, but I never realized that they got that close to people. Usually the reports I've seen on them, they saw them in a distance.
Sorry. I gotta quit reading chat. Doppel always gets me, or KC, but this ball of light, I guess, it messes with people's equipment as well too. There are photos on the internet, so if you guys go type in Ghost Road photos, and you'll see mists forming in people's photos. They also have different photos of different people having these balls of light at different... They're like different colors. I've seen a different... One was like a red, I think I saw. Another one I saw was green. Now, there also are stories of cryptid creatures, such as Bigfoot, that roams the preserve. And people often are talking about hearing the howling of this creature, as well as it being seen, not just in the preserve, but sometimes this thing steps out by nearby towns and suburbs.
Now, is this like a Bigfoot creature, or?
Yeah, Bigfoot. A lot of people have reporting seeing Bigfoot in this preserve. I mean, there's a lot of stories that people are sharing on the internet of their encounters of running in with a Bigfoot. And it's not just in this area, it's also stepping out of the area and going into the small towns that are connected to or have this in the back of their yard, People are constantly talking about hearing disembodied voices also in this area. And there's actually been some reports that I was reading where people were being attacked. What they claim were native apparitions. I don't know if they're native or not, but there's people who claim that they've been scratched and attacked by an unseen spirit, while they were in this area and on those roads. And here's another picture of the Thicket area, too, where this is where people are claiming that Bigfoot is roaming around for a long time, too.
Well, I've heard of the Big Thicket, but this is the first time I've heard anything about it being haunted.
Don't they have, like, down in Louisiana, they got the Rougarou?
The Rougarou?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this goes all the way down to the southwestern part of Louisiana, so it's huge. So who knows? Maybe people are also seeing the Rougarou in this area.
Very possible.
But it's, we're doing, what is it, next week? Yeah, next week we're doing the dark side of Bigfoot, where we're sharing people's encounters and stories of not so pleasant run-ins with Bigfoot, from being attacked, harassed, kidnapped, abducted, and even possibly killed by the beast. So why don't you read your next one? I think people should go to the Big Thicket. I think you should check it out. If you ever doing like a summer traveling, hit up a couple of these different places, map it out so you can kind of hit them all in a row,
Yeah, because some of these places are free to go to.
Yeah.
And
so I'd say go check it out for all those paranormal enthusiasts. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Bluff Mountain, Virginia. This is along the Appalachian Trail. Now, this is a short one. At the top of Bluff Mountain in Virginia, along the Appalachian Trail, there's a marker for a little boy who died on that spot a little more than 100 years ago. He was 4-year-old Otto Klein Powell. At the schoolhouse at Tower Hill, the teacher, Miss Gilbert, saw that her students were getting a little restless, so she decided to send them out to gather firewood for the next day. It was wintertime. The smaller children were to stay near the school and gather kindling, and the 2 oldest boys, Harry and Joseph Powell, who happened to be Otto's brothers, were sent out to find bigger branches. Well, the older boys set out to chop and gather firewood, but Otto followed them. And while the boys chopped wood, they had Otto gather kindling. Gave him a little bucket and sent him on his way. But Otto wandered away, and the older boys thought that he had gone back to the school, but when they got back there, they found out that Otto was missing.
Mm-hmm.
So they began to search, and when they couldn't find him, they notified their father, the Reverend Powell. So anyway, at 4 p.m., a small group of men, along with the Reverend, set out to search for him, and by 5:30, there was still no sign of him, and since it was getting dark, and that night there was a freezing rain, and it is believed that Otto died that night, but for months, the Powell family, along with others, did search for him, hoping that they would find him alive. They ran ads in papers, offered a reward, and even hired a private detective. But they never found him, and they began to realize that Otto was probably dead. Well, in April of 1892, hunters who were crossing Bluff Mountain found Otto's body. Now, a cross was erected on the spot, but decades later, it was replaced with a concrete marker with the inscription, "This is the exact spot little Otto Klein Powell's body was found April 5th, 1891, after straying from Tower Hill School House November 9th, a distance of 7 miles. This child ended up 7 miles away from that school. Age 4 years, 11 months. Now, it should be noted that the date, or rather the year, is wrong because he died in 1891 and he was found in 1892. But like I said, the marker was, the concrete permanent marker wasn't put up until decades later.
This makes me wonder, makes you think about that, goes with the missing 411 case stuff and the Bigfoot encounter stories.
Right.
It makes you wonder about this story too.
I know, this was such a sad story. It was really kind of hard to read.
But it makes you just wonder. Anyway.
Yeah, it does. Well, along the Appalachian Trail, about 1.5 miles from where Otto's body was found, there's this shelter called the Punch Bowl Shelter, and it's one of many along the trail, because the shelters were used by hikers to either as rest spots or camping areas. Well, this one has a small boy attached to it, or I should say the spirit of a small boy.
Mm-hmm.
Because many hikers that visit this shelter and stop at this shelter overnight report seeing the apparition of a small boy, and they say that he's somewhere between 4 and 6 years old. And sometimes he giggles, sometimes he runs by, sometimes he just stands there and watches. And also, where the marker where this boy's body was found, there have been claims of seeing the apparition of a small boy. One can only imagine what that small child went through, or how he felt the night he died alone in the wilderness. And maybe this is why his spirit is not at rest. Because there was a report that when they found his remains, which was mostly bones at the time, they appeared to be laying there as if in fetal position. You know,
Oh
on his
man.
side with his knees up,
Yep. Trying to stay warm and scared.
trying to stay warm, and he probably just laid down and died. Because
Scared. Yep. That's
scared.
awful.
I know, it's a very sad story, and it was hard to read.
That would make me cry if I was the person who found that.
It almost did make me cry.
No, if I was the person who found that body, I would be sad. Just knowing the emotions that boy probably had went through, you know. But
Exactly. I mean, he probably even cried out for his mother.
do you think that the emotions that a person goes through could leave an impression, therefore causing a residual? So maybe it's not
Yes,
really
I do.
him haunting this area, but it's the energy, the emotion that he was going through at the time, and therefore it's kind of imprinted in the area, and maybe that's what people
Well,
are picking up on.
It's a possibility, but I honestly believe that this child's spirit is not at rest. I really do. You can only imagine what he went through. You know, like I said, the hunters say that, you know, the bones appeared to be in the fetal position. He probably cried. He was wandering around 7 miles. His body was found 7 miles from that schoolhouse, up on a ridge where it shouldn't have been. And he probably got scared. He probably called out for his brothers. He probably cried for his mother. And since there was an ice storm that night and he was getting cold, he succumbed to the elements. You know, he probably finally laid down and died. And I think that his spirit is just not at rest.
Well, as far as the Appalachian Trail goes, I mean, that's huge. It goes
Oh, yeah.
for a long way.
What is that, like 1,500 miles long or more?
But the Appalachian Trail alone has a plethora of paranormal activity in multiple areas, let alone being known to have the Bigfoot.
Cryptids.
Yeah. And people constantly disappearing, but in weird cases that would fit the missing 411. We just talked about one of them.
Remember that
the last one.
documentary that both of us watched, you know, that woman that was...
Yeah, we talked about her on that last show we did
Yeah,
on
she
National
just-
Disappearance. National
Right,
Parks
she was on the
Disappearances.
Appalachian Trails. Of course, that was further north. You know, I think, what was that, around Maine?
Maine, yeah.
Something like that.
But she was
And
still only
she
like
just disappeared.
she was only so far off the trail, but they searched that area, and the dogs even searched that area. They found nothing, and then a couple years later, all of a sudden, her body was right there, and then they said, it was
She was like a half a mile off the trail, wasn't she?
yeah, but all that area is clearly marked, and she was ended up in the Navy survivalist area. That's for the Navy or
Yeah.
whatever. But that is one of those strange cases, and we did talk about it on our last show or whatever it was. But there's so much that goes on the Appalachian Trail alone. You know, I actually wanted to at one point actually hike this trail because I think it would be really cool. You know, just to.
I think it would be cool to maybe walk a mile or two of it, but I have never have had the urge to walk the Appalachian Trail. That's just not something that's on my bucket list.
Unless somebody was carrying you on their back,
Yeah, they
then
have
you'll
to
do
be
it.
carrying me. Yeah, they have to be carrying me.
Well, I'd do it. I would. I'm just saying, for the experience, and I think it would be amazing, you know. But
I think the scenery up there would be amazing, and I wouldn't mind going to a couple spots just, you know, to look, you know, just to see what it looks like up there. But as far as getting out there and walking it and stuff, I've just never had the desire to do that.
well, you suck. I'll go by myself then.
You're gonna have to.
You can
because
stay home
I'm
and
not
watch
going.
TV. Okay. I could not say this name for the life of me, so I'm sorry, guys. But this is that famous haunted forest in Romania, and this place seems to be a very popular place for the paranormal researchers. This was one of requested by someone too. That's why we're throwing it in here. But you know, many claim that it has a plethora of activity, and others are saying who go there, who live around the area, say they never once experienced anything while they were, hiking around in there and stuff. But there's other people who claim that they're having tons of different experiences. And these experiences are ranging from full body apparitions to disembodied voices, again, UFOs, people actually experiencing physical effects, to magnetic anomalies and tons of stuff. I mean, what I was reading on the internet, besides, the popular TV shows that we've seen people have done on this area, like Destination Truth and other things. But the stories go back, way back to, where the local villagers were being murdered by ghosts. They were talking about way back in the day that these unseen spirits were actually killing people from the nearby towns. And there's a story of like this missing sheep herder and 200 sheep that went into the area and they were never seen and or heard from again. Now, many believe through the ages that, hold on, I got a cough. Sorry, still getting over my cold. That this area was cursed and it's haunted and protected by otherworldly entities. I mean, true or fake, we don't know. But it said that some of these trees within this area, they tend to have like these odd like burn marks or charred trunks, as well as they're kind of growing in like weird twisted gnarly shapes as well.
I was just getting ready to ask, isn't this the forest where the trees are growing in these odd forms?
Yeah, they're not just bending in one shape. They bend in different directions. Like one area you'll see them in a certain way, and then you go to another section and they're shaped in a different way. And then a lot of the trunks on the bottom are kind of like charred up. So it's weird.
You were talking about this and it all started sounding familiar to me. I read a lot.
Yeah, I know.
I watch a lot of documentaries, so I'm sure I've seen something on this.
But there's also what they were talking about. There seems to this area. There's like we all know about there's this because we've seen it on the paranormal shows and Destination Truth. There seems to be this area that's like this clearing that's about like 300 meters long, and it's not a perfect circle, okay? But there is an area that, for whatever reason, nothing grows on that spot, but it does give off like a high electromagnetic reading, and it does tend to mess with people's electronic equipment. It just kind of goes haywire. Even compasses do. Now, many who go looking for the paranormal, and they go here and they explore, they've often expressed strange effects that occur to them physically. Now, they say that sometimes they have like this heaviness set on them. They also instantly get like this fear or panic attacks while they're in this area. They also said that they've been scratched or they have like these huge burn marks on their body when they're in this forest and in this clearing area. Now, people always talk about getting massive headaches. They're vomiting. They feel like they're being watched and can't talk anymore. Whatever. They're being stalked.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I can't talk. I think my brain's shutting down for the evening. But they're also saying that they have these feelings of wanting to just vacate the area really quickly. I mean, they feel that panicked, and they have this instant fear come on you where they feel like they're endangered, so they'll just quickly leave the area. They don't even want to stay in this section or investigate or do anything. Some even claim to have experienced astral projection while they're in the forest. This is the kind of the weird one, because I was reading some of these stories, and these people were saying they were on a trail just walking. I mean, they weren't there doing any paranormal activity or whatever. Yes, I know I can't talk tonight. My words are blurring and my brain's shutting down. But they're saying that when they were walking on some of the paths, that all of a sudden they just left their body. And then they said they were floating above their body and they were looking throughout the forest and the area above them, and then quickly got zapped right back to their body. And now these people have never had this experience before, prior, outside on their own, at their house or meditating or do anything.
Were there any theories of what's causing this electromagnetic phenomenon?
No, scientists have gone there and they're still conducting and doing stuff, and there should be no reason why nothing grows on this area as well. They don't understand. But, many people claim to have seen apparitions amongst the trees as well. They have these weird disembodied laughs and voices that seem to be taunting them and tormenting them. People talk about having like ghostly images of these faces, when they're just hiking or doing whatever or going to do paranormal activity. They say they'll be sitting there or walking, all of a sudden this face will show up right in front of them and then quickly disappear,
that would really be disconcerting. Yeah,
there's
that
also
would be a shock.
Yeah, there's people who are also talking about objects being ripped off their body, by some unseen presence, having their jacket ripped off them, having their camera ripped off them, having whatever, these things just violently ripped off their body and tossed about. People have photos capturing these entities. There's people who have seen glowing eyes, like in the woods at night, or just even in the field where they'll see like these red eyes glowing, but they don't see nothing else, like a dark, shadowy figure. They say sometimes you'll also experience black fog. Now, I've never seen black fog, ever.
I have not either.
I don't think I want to either. I mean, I've seen smog and car pollution and stuff like that, but I've never seen black fog. But there's people who talk about they have all these EVPs, and these EVPs aren't just for the paranormal people. There's people who are just walking around doing stuff in the parks in the wooded area, and they'll have people start coming through their cell phones and their radios when they're in the area of weird voices, So that's odd. But one of the famous things that we also know about, and it's been on the show and stuff, is the glowing lights. They're seen within the trees, weaving in and out and up and down, as though they're kind of like dancing and gliding about. And
I don't think I would want to go to this place. This sounds evil.
I would still go. I'm sorry. I guess I need to find a new partner in crime, because you're like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Well, I'll be going on my own. I'll send you a postcard from the woods. But there's like these glowing lights are going on. I think everyone has seen, that show Destination Truth, and they were
used to be one of my favorite shows.
They were filming there, remember? And they actually caught something that happened while they were in that clearing. Now, I can't remember which person it was that was on that show, per se, that was attacked. But he was, like, sitting there, and he was being filmed, and he was filming. And you can see the videos out there on YouTube and stuff where something actually grabbed him and ripped him up. And it threw him across the clearing. Literally. It grabbed him super fast and then just threw him across the whole clearing, way from where he was at. And I think there was also like a light that appeared too. This light appeared, everybody was seeing it, and then he was attacked. The light was in the woods, it was coming near him, behind him or whatever. But he said when he was grabbed, right before he was grabbed, he said that he heard a female voice. And then he was violently tossed like a rag doll. Now, when they got to him, he was just jacked up. He was freaked out. He was disoriented. They had the medics come and everything. And when they lifted up his clothes, because he said he was feeling burning. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when they lifted up his shirt and stuff, they saw that he had all these scratches. Now his clothing wasn't ripped up or anything, but he was all scratched up underneath, like something, like an animal or something just grabbed him and tossed him. Which you can see it on the video. I just thought that was insane. But the fact that they also saw and captured all those strange lights going on in the woods and around the areas too. Now, there's also reports of people just randomly vanishing while they're in this forest too. Which goes with a lot of the National State Park stuff we were talking about, remember?
Right.
They're just walking and then they're gone. Now, a popular one that I've seen on several sites, I don't know if this is true or not, but it claims like a 5-year-old little girl went missing, and then she reappeared years later in the forest wandering about. But she was wearing the exact same clothing, and they found no issues wrong with her. Her health condition seemed to be good. for somebody who had been missing for so long in the wilderness, you know. And when people questioned her, she absolutely had no memory or concept of time. She didn't even know that she'd been gone that long. You know what I mean? I don't know if this is true or not. I tried to find a newspaper article or anything. I couldn't find it. So it could be BS. It could be true. I don't know. But I tried to find evidence to prove it, but I had no luck on that one. But it's something that is often told when it comes to this area. You know, a lot of people tie that story in with the fact that the forest is reported to be a highly active area for UFOs. And I think as far back as I could see for reports and stuff on the internet, it went back as far as the 1960s. But I'm sure people probably had more experiences with that. But that's as far as I could find on the internet, you know. But it says there was this guy, his name was Alexander Sift, who at the time was studying strange anomalies in the forest. And he captured photographs of UFOs, which I have one on this thing. It's in the upper left-hand corner. He was out in the woods, you know, trying to understand the strange things that were going on in the forest. And that's when he started taking photographs of these UFOs flying and or hovering just above the forest treetops. Now, other people as well have captured photos of UFOs hovering in and around the forest. One of them was by Emil on August 18th of 1968. And then there was another one in 2002 of... Oh, I think I mixed this up. Well, there's two people that were in an apartment near the forest. This is the one. It was this forest, not the other forest. I'm sorry, I mixed up the story. But these were the two people who actually got a video of 30 seconds of a bright cigar-shaped craft hovering over the forest, and it slowly glided across the sky and disappeared into some clouds. And many think that the UFO and the missing cases are tied in, as well as the area being a hot spot for the paranormal. And maybe that's why nothing grows in that one area, you know?
Do you think, though, that maybe since there is such a high magnetic phenomenon going on there, electromagnetic thing going on there, that some of these things that these people are seeing, some of the feelings they're having, is from that? Because I read somewhere that if you are in an electromagnetic field long enough, you start hallucinating and you start becoming disoriented, and your feelings, you start feeling things like you will experience fear, sometimes hallucinations, sometimes just hear things. Do you think that maybe that has something to do with it, or do you think there is really something there?
I think both, to be honest with you.
Now, if I remember right, this place is a hotspot for UFO sightings.
Well, yeah, I just said that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it still goes on to this day. A lot of people are saying that or whatever. But I definitely think it's probably both, to be honest with you. And as far as the misshapen trees and stuff like that, I really don't know what created or caused that. I guess
I think that has something to do with the electromagnetic field that's in this area. I really think that. I think that the electromagnetic phenomenon going on there has caused misshapen trees.
Maybe the UFOs blasting did it too, or the radiation from these crafts, be it
Very possible.
When we say UFOs, it doesn't mean that we're saying, oh, they're from outer space. For all we know, they could be man-made crafts here by military, for all we know. Who knows? You know what I mean? That's why they're called unidentified flying objects. I mean, we don't really know who's operating them, but
where they come from, or
what? Right, but
you know.
Who knows? Maybe those because there's so many of that could have affected these trees when they were younger saplings, and made them grow in different directions in different areas. And so I guess there's a multitude of things that could cause numerous things of this to occur. But I'm never going to downplay anybody's experience, you know, because I believe people when they tell me I've had this experience or this is going on, and who am I to question, judge, or belittle anybody for their experience? Because we all have experiences, you know. And like I always say this, you know, if everybody's in one room and told their truths, I mean, our reality would change. But
the fact of the matter is, you know, I mean, people there. You know, and I saw that Destination Truth episode.
Yeah, that video's on YouTube, guys. Check it out.
The more you were talking about it, the more I was remembering it.
I was so glad I caught that episode because I was just like, holy swear word, you know?
Yeah, really. But people are saying that they have these experiences. They probably are. Okay, it's just a matter of what is causing them. Is it paranormal activity? Is it this very strong electromagnetic phenomenon? Is it UFOs? What is it? This is one of the most haunted forests
Sometimes,
in Europe.
sorry, I still have my cold. Some people think that some of these forests and areas that we're talking about that have these oddities and the higher levels and stuff, that they might be portals to different dimensions and this and that and everything else, and that's why we have all these odd occurrences.
Right.
Also, we didn't mention this in the last show of the National Forest, but it'll be mentioned in one of the future ones when we do more topics. But there's park rangers and game wardens who talk about there's stairs in the middle of the forest that you see these stairs that go up to nothing, literally into the sky. And these are like house stairs or just like that. And then when they were in their training and stuff, they'd ask the other guys who were training them, well, what are these stairs? And they say, don't you ever go up on these stairs, ever. Just leave them alone. And this one time, this guy he got curious because he was out doing his stuff, and he broke free from, the training people a little bit, and he went running up on the stairs, and he's like, well, I don't feel nothing, and it's, I don't think there's anything going on. And then he noticed that there was no more sound. There was no sound, there was no wilderness, no birds, no wind, no nothing. And that's when he started
stepping into another dimension.
Yeah, that's when he started to notice something, and he's like, okay, I'm out of here. So then he ran down the stairs and went back and met up with the group. And then, they finished doing their training, whatever, got back to the, whatever, game warden house, park ranger place, I don't know what the heck they call him. And the head guy comes out, and he started yelling at him. And he's like, you went on those stairs. I know you went on those stairs. And he's like, how do you know? And he said, because of you, oh wait, I think they were looking for a missing girl. He said, because of you, now she's never going to come back because you went on those stairs. And I thought, that's kind of weird,
That's very weird.
But that's not the only story of park rangers and people talking about that and stuff. There's a lot of things that go on out there that we didn't cover in the one show that we are going to talk about in multiple shows, but this again goes into certain areas where they have these weird activities going on and paranormal activity going on, people claiming to see cryptids or what have you, and these weird stairs that go into nowhere, and stuff. So I don't know. I think there's a wide variety of things that's really hard to explain. And I think all of us, and this is why I like going on the internet and meeting people, because we all can banter and have different theories or opinions and agree to disagree and to actually help each other, go beyond our little box of thinking too. But I can't answer it. I would have to go explore myself, but I think there's probably a multitude of things of why this is occurring in these certain spots,
Right.
I guess that's the best way I can answer your question. Sorry.
No, you answered it. Okay, the Devil's Tramping Ground. This is located in a wooded area of Harper's Crossroads in Bear Creek, North Carolina. Now, it's used as a camping area, and it's been said to have its own paranormal activity in the area where supposedly nothing grows in this 40-foot circle of land that many locals call it the Devil's Tramps. The circle was created by the devil, who often walks the same path as he plots his devious plans to cause havoc and ruin humanity.
Yeah, that's what the locust story was of why this became.
That's the local explanation of this.
Right. Their story.
Yeah, but people claim that this area seems to have strange occurrences happen within the circle, ranging from items being left overnight by people and their objects being moved by an unseen apparition, or the items disappear completely. Animals act up while in this circle. Dogs bark and howl incessantly, not wanting to go into or near that area. People who have spent the night claim to have seen the shadow figures watching them from the tree line, to hearing some disembodied voices. People also claim that some who have dared to spend the night in the circle fled in panic and were never the same again. Now, true or false, I don't know. But this was
sharing stuff what we found on the net, right?
Right, but this was a request by one of the chatters in our last show to mention this spot as well.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know.
I do too.
I
I think
think
somebody mentioned it tonight too.
Well, somebody in chat mentioned it that they actually been there before, so I kind of asked them a question if they actually had any experience there. But I think it's possible to have an experience kind of anywhere. Maybe people have entities that follow them. Maybe the area that you're in isn't actually haunted or has activity, but maybe you just seem to be like a light beacon and attract things to you. I don't know. I mean,
Some people do.
We don't really have the answers. You know, we do these shows for an entertainment purpose and to, you know, just because me and you like to talk about a lot of things and stuff. But
Right.
you know, we don't.
We will talk about anything and everything.
Not everything. There's some things that are off
Well,
the
there are
table.
some things that we just don't talk about, but
Oh, she said, Megan said, it was what I would call an unsettled atmosphere. You don't feel scared, but like you should leave before something happens that does scare you. So she had that, like that same type of fear, or not like fear in a sense, like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
I have been in
but
places
that type of
like
panic
that
stuff.
before, though, where I have walked into a place and it was very unsettling, and something, you know, I'd get this feeling I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, so I can understand feelings like that, and there may very well be something there. I've never been there, and I really don't know too much about this particular area because I've never really read up on it.
Right, we just kind of found what we could on it, and which there isn't a whole lot talked about. Everybody kind of seems to say the same thing, but sometimes I wonder, you know, when people hear about these places and it supposedly has paranormal activity, and then people go there and, you know, maybe they conjure up things, and then it
Now,
does
I believe-
become a having activity.
I do believe
you know,
that there are places that have been touched by evil,
mm-hmm.
and this could very well have been one of them.
Like your ex-husband.
Yeah,
No, but
and his current girlfriend. But I do believe that there are places that have been touched by evil, and when you go to these places, you do get an unsettling feeling. You do get, you know, experience fear. I've been to places where as soon as I walked into them, the hair on my arm stood up, and that's usually a sign for me that I'm going to encounter something I'm not going to like. But it's entirely possible that this place has been touched by evil, just like that forest you just talked about.
yeah.
You know, I mean, it's entirely possible that those places have been touched by evil.
Well, the thing I was thinking about, like, you know, like I said, if people hear there's paranormal activity and then they come and conjure or call up or, you know, maybe Ouija board or whatever, all the different things that people do, maybe by doing that, they actually create activity to then occur. You know, maybe there might have not have been there anything at one time on some of these places, and then all these people come together and then they focus on that, and maybe they're opening up portals and bringing things in some places.
Well, that's entirely possible too, and there are people out there that where it just seems like paranormal activity is just drawn to them like they're a magnet.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, some people are light beacons. MacKenzie State Park Woods. Now, this is located in Hawaii, near the Puna coastline, and it's about 13 acres of tall ironwood trees. Now, this park was built by convicts in 1850s during the sugarcane plantation time period. Now, many who committed crimes were shipped over to do the labor work there, and they were basically clearing out this area, and it was an isolated area, so they couldn't really go anywhere. You know what I mean? But they basically had to clean out the thick rainforest, and they removed a lot of the lava rocks and made it into like the smooth, level out state park area that it is now. And they said many suffered and died because of dehydration, you know, disease, and the quality of poor, clean drinking water, you know. And also it's very humid there, so a lot of people succumbed to the environment, and also, you know, back in the day, they didn't really care about people who were in prisons or anything else, and just didn't, you know, let them die, you know.
Yeah.
But during the years, many people lost their lives while they were camping there too. Now, a lot of it occurred because of violent crimes, as well as, people drowning right there in the ocean. Now, the MacKenzie State Park woods is said to have a lot of paranormal activity occurring, not only at night, but also during the day as well. So this is another place where you could see activity at any time. Now, visitors often hike the trail, telling stories of hearing like footsteps behind them, and when they turn around and look, there's no one there. But they'll keep walking and stop because they keep feeling and hearing like somebody's right there, but nobody's there. They don't see anybody. Now, this one woman reported on the internet while she was walking the grounds that there was like this man ahead of her walking, and at one point, this guy, he stopped, and he turned around, he looked at her for a little bit, and then he waved. And she was just like, okay. And then, poof, he vanished right in front of her.
Wow.
I think he, vanished into one. He was right there. The tree was right there, and he just vanished. She's
right into the tree?
Yeah, basically. Now, people are also talking about hearing disembodied voices. They hear people, crying. They hear people whispering. They hear people moaning. And when they go to find out where there's noise are coming from, there's these huge, large holes in the ground. And these are from the lava tubes. And people are saying that they're hearing these disembodied voices coming out of these lava tube holes. Which, that would creep me out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really.
Stay away from...
I'd be moving my tent, to the other side of the island.
Oh, so you'd tent here, but you wouldn't tent to the other woods that I want to go check out. You're like, oh, let's go to Hawaii. Who cares? But... No, but, the first thing I thought of when they were talking about these lava holes and hearing these disembodied voices and crying and moaning and people trying to taunt you to come into that, it made me think of Mel's Hole. Remember that story about Mel's Hole?
Oh, yeah.
We should do a
place in Oregon.
Yeah, we should do a show on that. That's creepy.
Yeah, it is.
But, they're also talking about reports of people screaming of they're being murdered or hurt, and you hear that often in the middle of the night in the wooded area when you're camping there. Now, people who are camping there in tents, they said that when they were sleeping, they had their sleeping bags and their tents messed with from some unseen force. The zipper will go up on their tent, right? The tents will be shaken and violently kind of tossed about a little bit. And then this thing will open up their tent, and it will grab their sleeping bag and rip it off them while they're sleeping.
That's quite a force to just reach in and grab your sleeping tent or your sleeping bag and just jerk it out from around you.
Exactly.
Leaving you laying there on the ground.
Naked, practically. I know. I would freak out. I'd be like, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? They also have reports of the glowing balls, again, of light. Seen around, floating around. But a lot of people who report the glowing lights are actually the fishermen at night who are off the shore fishing. They actually see these glowing lights that are kind of dancing around the cliffs and the camping area, and then they also see them go into the caves, which is weird, That'd be kind of trippy to see,
Really?
Now, the campers also talk about seeing that same light weaving in and gliding throughout the grounds at the campground at night, which I would be going in the opposite direction. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But oftentimes people take photos, in this area, and at the time when they're taking it, they don't see it. But when they look at their pictures, there's a lot of odd things showing up in these photos that wasn't there while they were taking it. When you're looking at your camera, you take the picture, you don't say nothing, then you look, and then all of a sudden you have these weird, apparition type forms or orb type of, not dust orbs or nature element type of orbs that you'll normally see, but I'm talking about the weird light stuff too, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know.
Hawaii has a lot of things like that going on. That's like Pele.
Mm-hmm.
That volcano out there. People go out there and visit it, and they'll throw bottles of alcohol down there or some sort of gift to Pele, and there's been people that have taken the little small lava rocks home with them.
Oh, yeah.
And when they do, something bad starts happening to them, so they start mailing these rocks back to the forest rangers to return to the volcano. Hawaii's full of stories like that.
I know. Well, it's also a volcano.
Right.
So again, it goes with the things that we're kind of talking about. Maybe because of where it is, whatever, does this happen to, who knows, maybe it gives the spiritual people more energy just because of where it's at. I don't know. There's so many theories, there's so many things that we can think about, banter about, and try to investigate to why it's causing this, but I thought this was kind of an interesting place to talk about. It's really not mentioned in the top 10 haunted forests and parks and stuff like that, but I definitely think this is a cool place. I would go to it.
I think it's a good find.
I don't know if I would actually stay there just because of so much people who have been killed there. And also the creepy holes in the ground with the ghosties calling
lava
you.
tubes, I'd be afraid there'd be something still active down there.
Monster come out and pull you in and be like,
not necessarily monster, but, who'd want to be camping there and lava start coming out of the...
Oh, yeah. Screw that.
Yeah.
I ain't down with that.
Lava'd be coming out of the tubes, That's...
Ain't got no shoes for that,
Basically, Hawaii is like one big volcano anyway.
Well, yeah. To be honest with you, I don't want to live on an island. I don't want to go visit an island because I don't want to be stuck there. I like traveling. I like roaming.
I don't want to live on any island that was formed by a volcano.
I don't want to live in an island where you live. No. So, I don't want to go there. I don't have no ambition to go there. 1, you're screwed if the volcano explodes. 2, tsunami comes, you're screwed. 3, you go swimming, and who knows what's in the ocean.
Shark will eat you.
You don't know what Sharknado.
And you're screwed.
Yeah, or Sharknado stuff. But no, you don't know what lives in the ocean. The ocean is like so huge and so vast.
I don't go swimming in the ocean either because there's too many things in there that can eat you.
You don't even know what's in there. For all you know, that's where UFOs come from. I mean, the ocean's never really been explored or charted all the way through. Nobody really knows what's there. So
I think only like 3% of the ocean.
I don't even know what we're talking about. We're getting so off track.
Explored, It's just like maybe 5% of space has been explored.
Yeah. I'm sorry I got you off track. This is what we do when me and her are talking. We just randomly talk about a lot of stuff. So, we apologize, guys. You want to talk about your next story?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, spooky.
It's okay. The Forest of Rothiemurchus in Scotland. According to some websites, the forest is the burial place of a warrior chief of Clan Shaw who lived around the 14th century. He stood a little over 6 feet tall, and he was known for his intimidation and smirk of a smile that unnerved his own followers. Now, during the years, it was told that when people traveled through this forest, they would be approached by this large, dark figure that would challenge them to a battle or a fight. And if the person agreed, this dark apparition would just suddenly disappear, allowing the person to continue forward without hurting them.
Wow.
But if someone, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
if someone encountered this apparition, showed any type of fear, this apparition would react differently and the person would never be seen again. But according to sites, but it never said where, this figure is only seen in a specific area, but for some reason they never said where it was.
That'd be kind of creepy.
It is creepy.
I'd be like...
I mean, something that's like over 6 feet tall comes up and says hey, you want to fight? No. But I'll bet I can run faster than you.
Yeah, that'd be weird. How would you even know how to interact? And like, sorry, wrong answer. That'd suck.
That would, when that would come up to you,
Mm-hmm.
somebody would have to know that was some sort of apparition or something that just wasn't normal. And they would be afraid anyway. That would have to take a really special person to stand there and say, yeah, I'll fight you.
I don't even know what I would do if it was me. But we weren't knocking Hawaii or people who live in islands and stuff. Me and her, we like nature, wooded areas, and road tripping and everything else.
I love the woods.
I just don't know if I could live on a small island just because I like to travel a lot. But, some people like the ocean. Some people like surfing and everything else. And, we weren't knocking it. We're just saying for us, it would freak me out, because... I couldn't handle that.
For one thing, we're not used to that kind of life.
That's true. We didn't grow up in that.
We're out here in the Midwest. We don't even know what surfing is. Okay.
That's not true.
Well,
Speak
okay,
for
we know
yourself.
what surfing is, but I don't know about you, but I've never been surfing, okay? And I've been near the ocean. I've seen people surf, and I thought, I'm not going to do that. One thing, I can't swim.
That's true. Yeah, be
But
careful.
that is the kind of life that if you grew up there, that, and and when you see documentaries or pictures and stuff, you think, wow, that is the perfect life.
Well, it's
I'd like to
beautiful.
be doing that. Hawaii is beautiful,
Right.
but
I just don't want to live in a volcano. That's all.
that's it. I don't want to live on an island that was formed by a volcano. But the thing of it is, too, the people that do live there, why worry about something that you have no control over? Because if a volcano is going to erupt, it's going to erupt, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, as long as you enjoy your life, that's all that matters, right?
That's true. If you're enjoying your life, you love where you live, that's great. We're not knocking islands. It's just what we're saying is that's just not the life for us.
Freaks me out a little, the volcano stuff. But how about Freetown-Fall River State Forest? We have to mention this at least. We did do a show on this, actually, a 2-hour show. When we did the Bentington and the Bridgewater Triangle, the vile vortices, which was our second show of vile vortices. And we did a very in-depth show on this area. And I totally suggest you guys to go check it out because it's amazing the things that were going on in the Bentington and the Bridgewater area, but I'm just going to mention it again here briefly since we are talking about haunted forests. But this place has to be one of the creepiest we've ever talked about. I mean, do you remember? Because it ranged from like cryptid creatures, with the Bigfoot.
Cryptid creatures to UFOs to ghosts, yeah.
The Puckawudgies, remember?
What in the world is a Puckawudgie?
That's that. Well, I'll tell it here in a little bit, but that was that little creature that we talked about that people were seeing.
Oh, okay.
And it's native. The natives were even encountering these things, not just here, but in a lot of part of the North America areas. But you had UFOs, you had apparitions, they had the balls of lights there too, and tons of missing cases also explained in this area. Animal mutilation. They had murders, unsolved crimes, to even alleged cult activity going on in this place. I mean, this place is like a hotbed for a lot of stuff, and it's still going on to this day. Now, they have disembodied voices, people screams, footsteps following people with no body behind it, people actually getting partially possessed while they're in the woods, doing there was paranormal groups that were doing this stuff, and they were actually, a woman was possessed, and it's on film. I think it's on one of the documents. On YouTube, you could probably look it up. But there's parts in the woods near the quarry called the Ledge that has many cases of suicide. And when people are in and around that area, they get hit with this like overwhelming emotions and like a sense of like, darkness or dread, or they're just depressed. And many people also said that they've seen spirits repeating their last act as they leap off the ledge and disappear right before the body would hit the water. So is that residual? I don't know. The Hockomock Swamp, they claim that this swamp is home to spirits and strange cryptid animals. Also, they think people are talking about that there's possibly maybe a UFO base. We're not saying this is what people are saying. There's stories of apparitions of Native Americans roaming through these swamps. They're also seen paddling in canoes. People actually even seen thunderbirds. Those creatures that are kind of resembling the pterodactyls.
Yeah.
There's reports of these giant dogs with glowing red eyes. A guy in 1976, he claimed that this creature, Demon Dog, ripped the throats out of 2 of his horses. This creature came up and killed his horses. Reports of a bipedal hairy ape man roaming the swamps in the Triangle area. A man named Joseph, he claimed that this ape creature was when he was walking into the woods, it was near the swamp area and right behind his residence. There's another guy, his name was John Baker. He claims that he saw a tall bipedal hairy beast walking along the river, keeping pace with his canoe when he was canoeing. And he said that it was so close that he said it gave off this awful stench smell of like death and decay and garbage and wet dog all in one, There's reports of, like I said, those 2 to 4 foot creatures called the Puckawudgies. Now, that's like the person of the wilderness, and it's considered to be the spirits of the forest that possess magical powers. And they also have like the ability to turn invisible. But what they do is they confuse people, and they can shapeshift into like creatures or animals themselves, and they actually bring harm to people. And often they're the case that people say they're the ones who are creating these balls of light, and then they lead people deep into the forest to walk off cliffs, or they actually attack them, you know what I mean? Or they walk into quicksand or whatever. The folklore tells of these stories of these Puckawudgies. You know, they basically possess the powers where they can actually control the spirits or souls of people or natives that were killed. So they're actually collecting people's souls or something. That's according to the native folklore or whatever. But I guess they're like extremely dangerous, and a lot of people have actually seen these small creatures in the Free State Forest area. People report seeing Native American spirits roaming on the land. They see them dancing in the forest. They see them paddling in canoes. They've seen the spirits in the Hakama area, luring people deeper into the swamps. They said they've heard disembodied voices of children laughing and taunting them. Phantom fires in camps are seen by people on the trails in the forest. You know, they'll walk by, they'll see these fires in these camp areas, they'll go up for a while, and then they'll return and come back, and then all of a sudden it won't be there, and there'll be nothing left over. Like, you'd think there'd be smoldering wood or something. There's not. There's people who've gone out on these trails, and they'll be walking, and then all of a sudden the trail, changes right in front of their eyes and disorientates them. It's like a weird spectral type of thing happening to them. There's people who claim there's like this hitchhiker that roams the Route 44, harassing people. And there's tons of stuff going on here, from UFOs to the government helicopter area stuff going on. There's just so much going on here. But like I said, we kind of have a more in-depth thing on our other show that we did on the Bennington and Bridgewater Triangle show, Biovortices Part 2. So I think you guys should go check out that one, because it's really more in-depth than what I did tonight on it. But I just figured it should be mentioned again, since we are doing a topic on haunted forests. But
it just seems to me that you would have to be either a very brave person or someone who just doesn't know any better to go into these places.
Or adventure.
Yeah, someone who likes adventure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not that adventurous. I like things to be comfortable and as normal as they can get. Doesn't always happen for me, but I like it that way.
Right. I think that's it for our show, guys. Sorry we went over 9 minutes. I'm sorry about we having the audio problems in the beginning. I don't know why that happened or what created it, but hopefully it was good for the rest of the show for you guys, but...
well, I enjoyed doing it, and thank you very much for a good show, and I want to thank our mods, Penny and Richard, and to everybody that came to listen to us.
Yeah, why don't you tell me what we're going to do next week?
Please join us Tuesday, February 9th, when we discuss the dark side of Bigfoot, encounters, stories of people being attacked, kidnapped, abducted by Sasquatch throughout the centuries, real or make-believe. Tune in Tuesday and decide for yourself. Thank you for coming, and please subscribe to us and give us a like and share us with others on any social media site you may be a part of.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And we'll see you guys next week.